Okay, good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, May 3rd, and I'm calling this meeting to order. The meeting is being broadcast by Natick Pegasus and recorded by them for future viewing. Thank you to Natick Pegasus. We are also being recorded on Zoom.
No, we are.
We are not.
We are not being recorded on Zoom. Oh, that's good to know. I did not realize that, see? Okay, at this time, I'm going to review the topics for the board to consider going into executive session for the following reasons. Pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation, if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. REBA Dispute Resolution Mediation, Pello et al. Versus Town of Natick Zoning Board of Appeals et al. Land Court Docket Number 21, MISC 000520, DRR Grossman. Item B, pursuant to MGL 30A, Section 21A6, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body. 5 Auburn Street Development Agreement. Item C, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Springfield Water and Sewer et al. Versus Massachusetts DEP number 2384 CV 00443 in Suffolk Superior. And I will entertain a motion for exec session.
Move to enter executive session.
Second.
Okay, I'll do that to Catherine, and I'll give that to Paul. So, Ms. Coughlin.
Yes.
Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Ms. Pope.
Yes.
Mr. Sidney.
Yes.
And I'm a yes. We're now going to go into exec session, which will not be open to the public. We expect to be back in open session at about 7:15 p.m., and at that time we will continue the public session. So stand by. It is 7:37 p.m. We just exited executive session and are now returning to open session. Before we begin, will those of you in the meeting room please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence for Rabbi Harold Kushner, who passed away on April 28th, a huge loss to the community. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, going to announcements. Item A, we have vacancies on Natick Cultural Council. The Select Board is currently accepting applications for 3 vacancies on the Cultural Council. The mission of the Natick Cultural Council is to promote excellence, education, and diversity in the arts, humanities, and interpretive sciences to improve the quality of life for Natick residents. The council awards grants based on cultural needs of the community as assessed by council members with input from the community. The council also supports and fosters professional excellence in the arts, encourages local development of the arts, and supports the work of artists, humanists, and cultural organizations. Members shall possess the skills and experience which can contribute to the purpose and mission of the Cultural Council. Continuing the board's with the board's current goal of diversity, equity, and inclusion, we continue to seek members of different genders, ethnicities, and cultural backgrounds. No panel members shall represent any particular group or special interest except only the broad interest of the Natick community. Candidates should apply to the Cultural Council by using the following link, http I'll just do the www.natickma.gov, Cultural Council. For more information, please contact the Select Board's office at 508-647-6410. Item B is the fire chief's, later.
Okay, later.
Yeah. Fire Chief's Persky's announcement of firefighter promotions. So, Chief Persky.
It was. Oh, sorry. Start over again. I would like to take this moment to thank the board, town administration, for the opportunity to recognize multiple achievements within our organization. With recent retirements, we have had the opportunity to promote a total of 4 fire officers, 2 captains and 2 lieutenants. I'll ask the 3, I have 3 of them here with me this evening. Could you 3 guys come up to the front and just have a seat up in the front for now? And I'll have you stand when I... In first, recognizing our 2 newly promoted captains. They are highly motivated and driven individuals. These 2 have worked hard to continue to improve their skill sets, their knowledge, and their approach to our profession. Unfortunately, tonight, Captain Justin Malore could not be here due to family obligations. I believe he's away on a nice family trip. Justin has been a member of the department since 2011. Captain Malore has been an acting captain for about the last 2 years, assigned to the training division, and has done an amazing job not only with training our crews, but also in creating a pathway of succession planning for the next training captain. Justin holds numerous fire certifications, is a paramedic. He's getting ready to complete, at the end of, I believe, the end of this month, he'll attain his master's in public administration from Anna Maria. He's a graduate of the Atlas Leadership Program. Captain Malore has been assigned to Engine 2 in South Natick, and he's the designated house captain. With us this evening, I do have Captain Chris Hampton, who's in the middle. He's here with his wife, Kelsey, and the rest of his family. He's stepped into his new role as the training captain. He's in charge of the training division. Captain Hampton has been with the department since 2017. We were fortunate enough to steal him from the town of Wellesley. They can't have him back. Chris holds numerous fire certifications, has a master's in public administration, and he's also a Marine. I'm very cautious to say that he wasn't, not to say that he was a Marine. I've gotten yelled at a couple of times for saying that someone was a Marine. Once they're a Marine, they're always a Marine. Chris is also he's the first member of the department to complete paramedic certification through a collaboration with the union in the town. I have to give a huge thank you to his wife for supporting him through that. That's definitely no small undertaking, and Chris has a basketball team size family here with him that you know, truly really have to thank Kelsey for supporting him through that mission. Upward movement in our organization creates opportunity at many levels. With 2 captains being promoted, we now had 2 lieutenant vacancies. The lieutenant's the first line supervisor, which is actually the first step in formal leadership within the department, and it carries the tremendous weight of keeping their crew safe while carrying out the mission of our department. At this level of promotion, there's a lot more candidates. As you start to promote up, the number of candidates kind of drops off. This was also an excellent opportunity for me to sit and interview them, and I can say that I am excited and inspired by the talent we have in our organization. Immediately here to my left, I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Jack Curley. Lieutenant Curley has been an acting lieutenant for the past year, and really he's been an acting lieutenant on and off over the last 13 years. He's been very active in the department since joining in 2001. Jack was a member of the town's technical rescue team. He is an EMT. He was a driver operator, and he's also an active participant in our honor guard. I'm hoping he's going to join us at the Woosocks in a couple of weeks. Lieutenant Curley also grew up in Natick, and he's joined tonight by his fiancee Diane and his daughter, who will soon be one of Natick's newest drivers out on our roads. And rounding out our batting order, that's another plug for our Woosocks event. On the far left is Lieutenant Rob Stevenson. Lieutenant Stevenson is joined tonight by his wife Noha and his daughter, and he also brought a pack of family members to the event. Rob started out his career as a call firefighter. He completed paramedic school, and then we were fortunate enough to scoop him up in 2012. He holds numerous fire certifications. He's currently in the process of completing his officer certification. And I'm going to take a second, and I apologize, Rob, if I embarrassed you, but I was truly moved by one of the comments you had made in your interview process. And in reflecting on my interview with Rob, there was one response in particular that he had that stands out. And his response to one of my questions was, "I will work to be a good mentor." And I think that truly resonated with me. Not only is that an awesome philosophy, it's exactly what we want all members of our department to subscribe to. So again, I thank you to the members of the board for this opportunity to recognize the hard work of these 4 members of our department, and thank you to their families for supporting them in all their endeavors and sharing them with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Please come forward so we can sit down.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your work.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Work for you.
Do you want to take a picture with the chief?
We were going to sneak across to the fire station and get out of your way. I thank you for your time.
If I may, just quick. If I may, just I'd also like to echo the chief's comments. We're very privileged as volunteers to be able to do this, but you're the ones serving this community so well, and you're the ones supporting them. So on behalf of the community, we are, as a board, always grateful to be able to do this. But the effort you put in and the risks that you all endure as family members is not lost on us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll pause while you guys have the chance to exit. So thank you all for coming. It is always, as Paul, Mr. Joseph said, it's always a pleasure and an honor to do this. So thank you very much.
You could stay for the fun. So they could stay for the fun.
Right? It's going to be a lonely meeting now, I know.
Okay. We're going to continue now. We're going to go a little off script here. I wanted to talk a bit about...
Chair, oh, sorry, go ahead. I was going to ask for the other announcement.
Oh, go right ahead.
No, the mental health announcement.
Go right ahead. Do that now.
Is that okay?
Yep,
Okay.
certainly.
Sorry. Just for folks watching, and I wanted to just take 2 seconds to reiterate what was said last night also at the town meeting. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and to support mental health awareness, town administration with all of our partners in the community, and I will say that there's been a great working partnership internal to government with the Board of Health, with the fire, police, the Community Services Department, HR, and town administration, many others, to work just to generate awareness around May being Mental Health Awareness Month. There's actually a flyer on the Novus agenda that has a link to a Facebook page and a URL that can provide information about upcoming events during the month of May to help just trainings, dialogues, and other offerings for the public to just generate awareness around mental health. We're trying to obviously destigmatize mental health. It's very important to do in our society today, especially coming out of the pandemic, but just in general. The first actually item is going to be a kickoff event tomorrow on May 4th from 5 to 6 p.m. And we encourage all to visit the Morse Institute Library for this kickoff event. It's not just during those times. We're just going to do a bit of a ceremony at that time. And it's going to be basically pin awareness on a tree that's been created in the library that you're going to be able to sort of be able to show your awareness for mental health. And then there'll be other things happening during the month of May, throughout the month. We are also, just for the board's sake, doing internal trainings with our own staff as well. We have some targeted ones for our public safety officials, just given the nature of their work, but as well as others that are opened up to all town officials. And we're going to be doing some other events during the month of May, just to generate awareness within our own staffs, because it's extremely important for us to take care of ourselves internally as well as a community externally. So thank you.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know, these little green ribbons are in recognition of mental health awareness.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Erickson.
Thank you.
What I'd like to go to now is, I'd like to talk a little bit about Rabbi Harold Kushner. And Rabbi Kushner was a best-selling author and rabbi of 24 years at Temple Israel in Natick. He passed away at age 88 on April 28th. To say he had an impactful life is a profound understatement. So I wanted to read two quotations that I read in praise of Rabbi Kushner. First is from a gentleman named David Wolpe, rabbi of the Sinai Temple in Los Angeles, called Kushner a wonderful man, an exemplary rabbi, and one whose writings helped millions deal with pain and loss. The second, the Jewish Book Council added that Kushner was an inspirational figure whose powerful books and words continue to resonate with all of us. And Mr. Sidney has also have some thing he wants to say.
So I spoke to Jay and Erica Ball, both former select persons of our town and very good friends of Rabbi Kushner. I called to wish them condolences, and they asked me to read the following. Rabbi Kushner was the spiritual leader of Temple Israel on Hartford Street for 24 years and became Natick's most famous author when he wrote When Bad Things Happen to Good People After the Death of His Son. He was a much-beloved figure in our community and a prominent voice on issues of social justice and interfaith relations. Rabbi Kushner will be long remembered for his extraordinary Sabbath sermons, his more than a dozen books, his warmth and friendship to all who knew him, and his keen understanding of the human heart. The world is a poorer place without Rabbi Kushner, and he will be sorely missed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sidney. Next item is a repeat from last meeting. It concerns Hazardous Waste Collection Day, which is May 6th. And this is from the Health Department Director. Natick's 2023 Household Hazardous Waste Day will be held May 6, 2023 from 9 to 12 at the Department of Public Works. This is for Natick residents only. Tickets must be purchased in advance from the Health Department on the second floor of Town Hall. Please call the Health Department at 508-647-6460 or go to the website link at natickma.org if you have any questions. The next item is public speak. Any individual may raise an issue that is not included on the agenda, and it will be taken under advisement by the board. There will be no opportunity for debate during this portion of the meeting. This section is limited to 15 minutes, and any individual addressing the board during this section is limited to 5 minutes. Is there anyone in the room looking to speak or online? I do not see any hands raised in Zoom land, so I'll say we're moving on. Okay, so let us start with, I'd like to start, since the parties are here, with the item E, the water and sewer abatement appeal. And John, if you could start that off for us.
If you could have
So thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to give a little bit of a background on the situation, and I'll let Mr. Menzies provide anything that I might miss. But we had received a water abatement request from him several months back. I had followed up with Mr. Menzies and had a conversation about what had happened. Basically, he had an outside faucet that was running during a period of time when he was away. He had a neighbor checking on the property. During that period of time, it seemed like the faucet was turned on, and his neighbor went over, addressed the issue and was able to turn it off. Because there was nothing that was broken within the facility, based on my follow-up and conversation, this was something that I could not abate. So he's here this evening in front of the board seeking a appeal of that denial from me.
Sir.
Yeah, this part you covered everything. The one thing is I do have tickets that I flew out on 13th of July to August 30th. So that's the only thing that I wasn't at home. And the gentleman who actually switched off the...
Sorry, the mic's on.
Oh, jeez. So I was out of town for a month. I got tickets to prove it. And the gentleman who switched it on is the ex-owner of Suburban. He did shoot an email confirming that he did switch it off because he saw a puddle outside. But don't know who switched it on or not. I didn't walk around the property since I wasn't there. But when I came back, I noticed that there was still water outside. But that's about, I got a little more greener grass in one area than the others. So all I'm requesting is the sewer charges be reversed. That was my request.
Okay. Comments, questions? Rich? Mr. Sidney, I'm sorry.
Thank you. John, do you know how much of this sewer charge would have been above his normal sewer charge?
Yes, so 17,400.
17,000? 17,000?
Wow.
You would be getting a credit if I was wrong on that. $1,744.38.
1,740.38?
$1,744.38. So that was above what the normal would be. Typically, on average, I think it was 11 units per quarter. Based on how that breaks out, it would typically be about $80.70. So that's basically the delta between the sewer charge and the number that I had just provided.
Thank you. That's all I need.
Any other questions? Do you have any motions? Mr. Joseph?
Yeah, I'll move to abate the sewer amount. I'll move to abate the amount of $1,744.38, consistent with Mr. Marshall's findings.
Second.
And that is moved by Mr. Joseph, seconded by Ms. Coughlin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, that is 500. John, what is the follow-up process?
So Donna Donovan from our office will be following up with you, kind of on that information. You will receive a credit, but Ms. Donovan will follow up with you on that information.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much. Okay, let us go back to the top alphabetically, which is 21 Overbrook easement discussion.
Mr. Chair, sorry, point of order. Did select board updates? Are we going to have enough chance for that?
By that, yeah, I'm sorry. Please go
If I
right
may,
ahead.
just very briefly, thank you, Mr. Chair. Two things. I was unable to attend the coalition meeting this morning. I represent the board as liaison to the Natick 180, but I do want to make the announcement, especially given that it's Mental Health Awareness Month this month, the great work that the Natick 180 coalition does in terms of those supporting those with substance use disorders and their families. Later this month, they're going to be hosting their annual spring coalition meeting, and that's going to be on Thursday, May 25th at 5:30. 5:30 p.m. That will be available to the public both on Zoom as well as at the Senior Community Center. So we encourage folks to come out and support the coalition itself, which is a multifunctional, multi-representative body in this town, really showing our cohesive approach to supporting those that have issues with addiction and helping sort of steer them in the right direction and with all the support and resources they need. Secondly, I'd also just recapping yesterday, I know members of this board that are town meeting members were not able to attend, but the Natick Cultural Council did host its award ceremony last night. I was proud to represent this board there. They did a phenomenal job. I wanted to congratulate the winners and saw some performances there. I did regretfully leave early so I could go to town meeting too. I should have stayed for the whole show. That said, I do want to compliment Shreya Joag, who we are going to hopefully reappoint on the consent agenda tonight as chair of that cultural council, and reiterate the chair's announcement earlier that they are seeking board members. And what a wonderful organization and a representation of how diverse this community is and how the arts and our culture and our differences actually highlight how similar we are. So thank you.
Thank you very much for those updates. Believe me, I would have rather been there than at town meeting.
Yeah.
So now that we've aired that grievance out. Any other select board updates? All right, now we can move on. I apologize for missing that. Let's go to 21 Overbrook easement. Mr. Erickson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And we might, in a little bit, have Ms. North back to help explain some of the legal components of this.
Would you like us to pause until?
Maybe we pause and see if she comes back on.
All right. Let us now go to the board ratification. Sorry, I need to find my document. Okay. Board ratification of the press statement that we made on the, as most of you know, in fact, probably all of you know, we made a statement regarding the anti-Semitic markings by the West Natick train station. So we did put out a press release on Friday, the 21st of April, but we wanted to make this we quickly got that out for release, but we wanted to take a vote tonight to ratify it as a board and make it more of a policy sort of type document, or a public stance is probably a better way to phrase it. So I'm not sure if we need to read this, but I'm going to read it just in case anybody missed it. Friday, April 21st, the town of Natick and the select board is formally and firmly making a joint statement against any and all hate crimes. Late on Thursday, April 20th, 2023, the Natick Police Department identified an anti-Semitic hate crime, parens of vandalism, near the West Natick MBTA station. Natick unequivocally opposes all acts of hate, prejudice, intolerance, or discrimination against all peoples. These moments serve as a harsh reminder that we must stand vigilant as a community and continue to make progress via greater education and community outreach. I make this next statement on behalf of the Select Board, town staff, and all who associate with Natick. This act is in full opposition to the morality and convictions of a town fully committed to acceptance and belonging. An important part of that, we are in the process of hiring a director of equity, inclusion, and outreach. In light of the recent rise in anti-Semitic incidents, both nationwide and locally, I want to extend my thoughts and solidarity to the Jewish community. We're not immune from despicable acts like this any more than any other community around the world, and we must stand in solidarity and make every attempt to better educate ourselves in hopes that the next hateful incident is prevented. A silver lining did arise from this incident. As our town staff approached the scene to remove the hateful act, it came to our attention that residents had already rallied to combat this act with a beautiful chalk artwork drawn on top of this hateful imagery, blotting it out. Thank you to all Natick residents who stand alongside myself, the Select Board, and town staff. This matter is an active Natick Police Department investigation, and Natick Police Department will notify the public of any material updates in the investigation, and is signed by myself and Mr. Erickson.
Mr. Chair, may I speak to the...
Please.
One of the things I think that many people in Natick and in Massachusetts generally believe is that because we live in an affluent, educated, relatively well-to-do part of the country, is that we're immune to these types of acts of hate. So there are two things I want to point out that were not in the press release. First of all, there's been a 500% increase in hate crimes against Jews over the last decade. Massachusetts ranks 6th in the number of hate crimes against Jews. And there's been a 36% increase over the last year nationwide. I say these statistics with a sense of awe because I don't expect that living where we live. I also want to point out that, I meant to mention this under Select Board updates, that May is also AAPI month, recognizing our brothers and sisters in the community that are from the Asian American community and the Pacific Islanders. And I want us to keep them in our minds too as we think about hate crimes and incidents of harassment, vandalism, and assault. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Joseph.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd also like to just comment, first of all, thank you for making that statement. Thanks to you, to the administration, to Mr. Poropatic for pulling it together so quickly. I think it's always difficult, and we've had experience with a Confederate flag. We've had experience with other issues where sometimes the need to be expedient and get a statement out puts us as an elected body in a difficult position. We need the chair to act on our behalf when the board itself can't deliberate until after the fact like we are right now. I just wanted to share a couple of experiences I had after that incident, one engaging with a member of the press who was very disappointed that none of us as individuals were providing a specific update to the press because we were awaiting the statement from the town. We live in a world where everybody wants the news first and everybody wants to get their message out and attach their agendas to those messages. My response to this reporter was basically that we have a protocol to follow, and if we are going to be representative of the board, we have to respect the process that we have. We are bound by open meeting law, and we are bound by the rules that we've agreed to serve under. That said, I implore the public to recognize this and understand that if an individual on this board chooses to be silent, it is not necessarily meaning that they're complicit or in agreement with these things that happen. I've been a member of this body when some of us have been accused by not speaking up when one member had and others hadn't. So the risk we run as individual volunteers is that we're going to be misrepresented by saying something or not saying something. So I appreciated the chair's swift response in working with administration to get a comprehensive statement out. That said, I just want to kind of remind the public, fear, anger, anxiety about these types of hate crimes, we are not immune, as Ms. Coughlin has indicated. Please don't let those or political agendas drive response or behavior on social media. It just further fuels the stresses that we all feel as individuals, both in service roles and in our community. So I just encourage the public to remind themselves and ask critical questions of themselves. Why hasn't certain people spoken in this? Is there a reason behind it? Sometimes there is a legitimate reason, and I'm not hiding behind anything, but I just want the public aware that we are bound by certain rules. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joseph. As Paul said.
Move to ratify the press statement. I'll give it to Ms. Pope.
Rich, I can do that, really.
Okay.
So that's moved by Mr. Sidney and seconded by Ms. Pope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 500. All right, thank you, everyone. And thank you, Mr. Joseph, for saying that, because a lot of times, and not just in this particular instance, but in many cases, we are bound by open meeting law. We're bound by the fact that we're a 5-member board, and we can't, as individuals, just go off and say what our opinion is on that. I'll call it a team effort, and we have protocols that we have to follow, and we have processes to follow. And it's difficult, believe me. There are many times when we want to absolutely answer this, and there are many times when we're appalled by something that happens, and we can't say anything until the processes take place. So I appreciate what Mr. Joseph has said.
Sorry to clarify, now I'm going to nitpick a little bit. Actually, we can, as individuals, speak as we want to, and that's one of the challenging parts of this conversation was the fact that we can. My personal thought process was I chose not to because I wasn't sure if this person was reaching out to every individual member for their individual thoughts and would fairly represent every individual's comments. We cannot speak on behalf of the board, but we do have a right as individuals to speak. That said, we have also been targeted, those that have chosen not to speak and defer to the chair sometimes, and I think unfairly framed in the community. So I think, again, it's a calculus. It's how we go about it. So that's a subtle difference. I just didn't want First Amendment people to start saying, well, you actually can.
I appreciate the clarification because I did misstate it. As the words were coming out of my mouth, I think, oh, hang on a minute. Okay. Thank you for that, Mr. Joseph. Anything? Okay, so let's move on to item, item C. Thank you. Which is the Town Governance Study Committee update and survey request. I had a conversation with Ms. Gloff, who's the chair of the Town Governance Study Committee, and she was unable to be here tonight, largely because they're trying to get a quorum for meetings to progress where they're at, and it happened to coincide with tonight. So it's very difficult herding the cats to get to meetings on a volunteer basis. So she provided me with a memo to update us on where they're at, which I'll read into the record. It is on Novus Agenda for those who want to download it. So from the top is Study Committee Quarterly Update dated May 1st, 2023. This memo serves as the quarterly update from the Town Governance Study Committee to the Select Board, our appointing authority. The TGSC has scheduled 31 meetings to date, 2 of which were canceled due to a lack of quorum, and has provided to the Select Board reports of the findings from key stakeholder interviews and survey responses received from town meeting members, town and school committee members, and town and school employees. In 2023, the Town Government Study Committee has been meeting with our consultant, Community Paradigm, to review the committee's findings to date, received input and suggestions from the consulting team, and discuss possible solutions to the identified issues. We anticipate providing recommendations to improving/solving some issues in our final report. On April 10th, the TGSC held a community forum to present to the public our charge, process, and findings to date. The forum was available to the public for participation in person and on Zoom, and it could also be viewed live on Pegasus, and a recording may currently be viewed. A public survey to collect feedback on our current form of government was released immediately after the community forum and is open for responses through May 5th, which is this Friday. We are interested in the experience and opinions of Natick residents, taxpayers, and others with an interest in Natick's local government. What about our town government is working well? What could be improved? The survey is available at https://sites.google.com, natickma.org/TGSC. In addition, a link to the survey is provided on the town's website at natickma.gov, or those interested may send an email to naticktowngovernance@gmail.com, and the survey link will be provided by return email. If an interested party does not have internet access, they may pick up hard copy of the survey in the Select Board's office. All completed surveys must be submitted no later than May 5th. To review agendas and minutes from our meetings, please go to the webpage at https. I never realized how hard it is to say https /sites.google.com/natickma.org/TPSC. We look forward to completing our work and providing our final report to the Select Board and the public. Thank you for the opportunity to serve the town. Submitted on behalf of TGSC members, Carol Goff, Chair, Matt Brand, Vice Chair, Josh Ostroff, Clerk. That is now entered into the public record. I do not see whether Karis is on. I don't think she is.
May we speak to the report?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just called up the charter of this committee, which was appointed back in January and I think finalized in February of 2022. At the time, I was on the, I think it's fair to say, dissenting opinion of the remainder of the board in terms of how we were going to time the work of this committee, what we were looking to achieve from the work of this committee, and how we would proceed. It was my hope at that time when I agreed to appoint the committee with the hope of hiring a consultant to facilitate the process that, frankly, we could have gotten a final report by the end of the calendar year. It was asked at that point in time, what about the end of the trailing 12 months following the first meeting of the committee, which would now be 13 months ago, and to receive a memo and to have a meeting that could have, a presentation could have been provided to this board live if they are convening as we speak. I was frankly disappointed that this represents the annual update from them. I know that there is work to be done, and I'm not critical of the fact that the work is not done. I'm frustrated with the lack of proactivity in communicating the progress of this committee, including a lack of a final date. And for that reason, consistent with what I said just a moment ago about individuals, I'm personally going to be going to the town clerk's office tomorrow and pulling the information required to start a charter commission petition. I believe firmly in the fact that regardless of the findings of this committee, what I've heard anecdotally, what I've seen, especially this most recent town meeting, and what I have known in serving this community over the past over 10 years, is that we are at high risk of hiring good people and keeping good people. People that have complaints about things that are going on in this town or not going on in this town, many of those issues could be addressed with a more expedient process and as recently as this executive session, because we have to comply with certain restrictions. We are not as agile to negotiate and to hopefully put the town in a better position when seeking things like affordable housing. So I don't say this lightly, but I also say it with all due respect to every member of that committee. When we appointed that committee, the hope was that the final product, and the hope still is, that the final product becomes an informative guide that will help elected members of a charter commission and accelerate their progress in making cogent recommendations to this community. That said, if we wait until an uncertain date, we will yet again miss another calendar year of being able to put this on a regularly scheduled election, which puts this board in an awkward position of either scheduling a special election, which has costs, or waiting until 2025. This town cannot wait to have this conversation, because no matter what we decide to do, the scope of the likely changes we need to make need to be put to the voters. In my strong opinion, the voters should have a say in how the government runs. And while we do have a representative democracy, and I've been on the opposite side of this when talking about complex issues such as the dam and such as affordable housing, when it comes to the governance structure itself, I've consistently been of the belief that the voters should have that say. That includes appointing the people that will serve on the Charter Commission, which is tightly guided by state law, and includes the scope of the work that can be done. And I do want to applaud the work of the committee so far, because they, working with the consultant, have put together some tremendous presentations and information that will serve the public well and continue to serve the public well. So I encourage them to keep going. I have no interest in seeing anything but their continued good progress. But I also believe if we wait until an uncertain date, we are going to miss a tremendous window of time. And I personally just can't let that go further. So I just wanted to share that with members of this board. I have conferred with council as an individual. I am speaking. I'm not speaking on behalf of this board, and any activity I undertake in pursuing a charter commission and promoting that will be as an individual. Thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, the only thing that I will say in response, and thank you for that, Mr. Joseph, and thank you for giving us the heads up on this. You have in earlier discussions on this talked about the Charter Commission and the timing thereof. I don't see any reason why this can't be pursued concurrently. You know, we do need to assess where we're at based on the data that we have. I wanted to give Ms. Goff the opportunity to go through the surveys and then figure out, because I think that's sort of a precursor for how we, as a town, would package what we put on a ballot. This says pro and con, you know, Charter Commission. You know, what are we trying to do? Because I think in isolation, I don't know enough, honestly, to define what a Charter Commission is and its objectives and what it's bound for are bound by in state statute. So I need to be educated on that. I'm not opposed to the idea of it, certainly, and I think it does belong with the voters. So I applaud your effort to independently do that. Obviously, we can't do anything as a board, but as individuals, we can. So I appreciate your candor in talking to that, and I understand your frustration of the timing and how long it's taken, but we'll get there. So thank you. Any other comments? Anybody? Okay. All right. Let's move on to the public hearing on application of an S15 all alcohol package store license. So how do we want to start this out? Do we want to?
We have to reopen the public hearing first.
Right. Would you please?
Oh, we don't need to read it, we just need to open it.
Right. I need a motion.
Second.
Move to open the public hearing.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Do we have to do a voice vote for that? All right. Mr. Joseph? Sorry.
Yes.
You're mid-swallow.
Looks like a good waiter.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Mr. Sidney? And I'm a yes, so 5-0. Okay, now we can talk. So what's our first step here?
Hear from the applicant.
Right. Thank you. Please. Please.
I'm not very good speaking, but I'll try my best. Is this on?
Yes.
Is the light showing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. First off, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you and present my application, and I look forward to working with the town and its residents. My name is Jamin Patel, and I'm the sole applicant as a potential owner and manager for this proposed business. As the son of a savvy businessman and a tenacious businesswoman, I intend to create value where there is none. The proposed location, the former laundromat, is located on 2 Mill Street in West Natick, which is described as the most densely populated section of town, according to Wikipedia. Having worked at our family's convenience store since I was a teenager, I wondered why so many patrons preferred to buy soda, chips, milk at our store instead of Roche Brothers, which was right down the block, which usually sold it for cheaper than we did. It was when I became a parent recently that I truly realized that not only is time equal to money, but often more valuable. And this is why we're so willing to pay for convenience. It is for this reason that I would argue that just as it made sense to approve Wegmans to have a full liquor license right across the street from Total Wine, it makes sense here to approve Liberty Liquors for the same reason. Convenience plus the added competition will result in easier access, more choice, and lower prices for Natick residents. For once, we might actually pay less for convenience. I understand that Deputy Chief Lauzon, along with some residents, have indicated their concerns regarding the perceived lack of public need in the general area near the proposed location. And I'm sure the board is made aware through previous similar hearings how dense the town of Natick is and how difficult it is to find a location where you can realistically open up a liquor store that isn't near other liquor stores or schools. I've explored virtually all available appropriately zoned properties in Natick, and only to conclude that not only is this the best option, but it's possibly the only viable one. Within a half mile of this proposed location, there are 3 Mexican restaurants, 3 pizza places, 1 supermarket, 2 pharmacies / convenience stores, CVS and Walgreens, and then 2 convenience stores, one of which my family has been running for the last 18 years. The location's Daily Mart, it's in the same plaza. The fact that these businesses have found continued success here and remained in business despite the competition and the recent effects of COVID point to the fact that not only is there demand here, there's also a public need. At Daily Mart, we serve thousands of customers monthly and do crazy good business despite the fact that there's a convenience store right down the road, and a CVS and a Walgreens and a supermarket. Most of our customers that come to our Daily Mart in this plaza are either retired, elderly, veterans, or working class laborers looking to quickly get to or work and just make a quick stop. All of them require quick in and out convenience that we would provide at this location. If even 10% of those customers can cut down on making one extra stop, it would save the residents of Natick countless hours over the month, allowing them more time to do what they enjoy instead. Of course, we're open to dialogue to address any concerns regarding cleanliness, nuisance, or implement any suggestions for possible changes that might appease those concerns. I would also like to add that we have a vested stake in being good neighbors here, because not only is it the right thing to do, but because any negative impacts to the area or to the neighborhood would result of us having a business here would directly impact us first and foremost, because we live within the half a mile square radius of this location. My family of 10 lives within this location, and anything that hurts the neighborhood hurts my family. And finally, by granting this business a chance at this location, what has the town got to lose? If there's no public demand or need in this area, my business will lose money until I cannot afford to lose anymore, and then you guys are free to find another applicant who has more confidence in being able to find a different location that's more appropriate. Until that point, this budding entrepreneur will get to live the dream of being his own boss. The landlord at Liberty Plaza will recover some of her lost rental income, and the town of residents will gain an extra choice and some convenience, and the town of Natick will earn additional tax revenue. Regrettably, there are 2 people who stand to lose something here. One of them is the owner of Natick Wine and Spirits, whose bottom line may be affected if Natick residents prefer my location, customer service, inventory, and affordability over his. And the other party is me, should the inverse be true, and indeed there is no need for my business, and I don't provide anything better than he does. Competition, especially among small businesses, forces them to evolve with the needs of their customers, ultimately rewarding the business that listens to the neighborhood and punishing the one that doesn't. I intend to be the former. And if the owner of Natick Wine and Spirits is worried that his customers will prefer my business over his, then his time may be better spent reevaluating his business model and what his store fails to offer to earn customer loyalty. At Daily Mart, we don't worry about our customers going to J&D convenience stores when we're open. We worry about our customers complaining the next day if we're unexpectedly closed and how they were forced to go there instead. If approved, my business won't just be a place to purchase drinks. It'll be a place where the community members go to gather, to share their stories, and to celebrate their achievements with other proud Natick residents like me. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Mr. Chair? Could you tell us something about your product selection, or what you mentioned creating value where there is none. So if you have one license, how will you create value where there is none currently?
With that statement, I meant with regards to the laundromat that's been closed for, I want to say, about a year now. It's been closed, and I think the person actually took out everything from inside to the point where I think the landlord has to litigate against them. because they even took out like the copper wiring and everything, like the piping.
Ouch.
So there, yeah.
It's not good.
And we have a great working relationship with that landlord there because my family has been running Daily Mart in the same plaza for the last 18 years.
Can you tell me something about the products you intend to carry?
So with the all alcohol package, it would be fine wines, spirits, and beer and wine, everything included.
So nothing substantively different than any of the surrounding stores?
We would want to do craft beers and stuff like that to stand out and to, like at Daily Mart, we try and get what the customers want. And if that's a special request they want, then that's what we would stock for them. That's just been our business model, and that's why they keep coming back to us and not go to the other convenience stores nearby.
You have to go to the mic, I'm sorry.
And introduce yourself.
We are planning to focus more towards...
Also, just introduce yourself for the record.
Hi, my name is Herschel Patel. I'm the owner of the Royal Smoke Shop down the street and son of also Daily Mart. We are going to be focusing more toward the craft beer and craft wines, more of a local selection. I've been to the Jack and Abbey location, and I was pretty impressed. But obviously, we are not going to be crafting our own beers, but more of our local beers, an idea of it.
I don't know if you know this, but I used to own a wine and spirit store, and it's a...
I did. I've reviewed some of the old hearings, and I remember you mentioned that.
It's a real tough business to carve a niche in. And while it is true that there are 3 Mexican restaurants and 3 pizzerias and a couple of pharmacies, the alcohol business is highly regulated specifically because it's alcohol and not pizza.
Yep.
So I had a few comments to make about public need. There are 7 licenses currently in Natick.
That's correct.
6 of those licenses are 2.5 miles away from that location. It's hard to make, because the product mix, even though it'll be focusing on craft wine and craft beer, it's hard to make the case for public need when there's already a saturation of licenses. You're right, I live in the neighborhood, so I do know that it's one of the most densely settled areas of Natick. But in addition to the licenses, we have 14,956 residences, all of which can receive delivery. So we have literally 15,000 outlets for alcohol plus 7 licenses. So I'm really excited by your wanting to be an entrepreneur and your energy. And if you were talking about opening another Mexican restaurant, I'd be really, really proud to support this. But given that we had in Massachusetts an economic loss of $5.1 billion due to alcohol disuse disorder last year, given the 7 residences, the furthest one away is 4 miles. Natick is 16 miles square, and 1 mile of that is water.
Yep.
So within 15 miles, we have 7 outlets plus unlimited delivery. So from my perspective, and what the ABCC requires to deny a license, it's not protecting other businesses. That's
Interesting.
It's not competition. It's saying that there's a public need. And if you were up here and you were offering to open, say, a kosher deli with all kosher wines, which we don't have in Natick, or a Mediterranean restaurant or Mediterranean takeout with, all Middle Eastern wines and Armenian brandy, I would see this application very different. Those are just my thoughts on this.
Anyone else? Any other thoughts? Mr. Joseph?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much. The customer, I'm not frequently, but when the numbers are big, I buy losing lottery tickets at your location. So
You and me both.
on that note, I have to, again, applaud the entrepreneurial drive here, and also this struggle that retailers are going through right now. I think that we are going through a transformative economy right now, and I think reinvention is a key part of any kind of business, especially in the retail space. I've had this conversation with other retail owners that are curious about the liquor licenses. I can't really do better than what Ms. Coughlin just said in terms of laying out the density of availability to folks, and I also concur with what makes sort of a unique offer versus not. In particular, with the convenience store format, my concern is also precedent, because we have to be cognizant of need, as Ms. Coughlin said. We also have a lot of I think speculation in this community that because we have liquor licenses, this is a good business to be in, and I'm worried about the fact that a controlled substance through a place of convenience attracts a different type of buyer and is very difficult to consistently train. With due respect, I know you're family-run business. I think the way you manage is probably different than the way others do, so I appreciate that. I live in your neighborhood. That said, I also concur that there is no public need. Personally speaking, when I served on this board 10 years ago, we talked a lot about the different types of licenses. We're now going through a comprehensive review of all of our alcohol policies, and we're just about to start our off-premises review. But one of the comments that did come through this board was the need for, I think, consistency with the format of what's being offered. So we do have these new licenses. I know the administration worked on a specialized policy for what we might consider when awarding these licenses, and I think consistency with business model was a big part, and I think Ms. Coughlin did a good job explaining what that might look like, with especially the kosher market example. So, I guess my personal opinion is consistent with Ms. Coughlin's, that I just don't see the public need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Joseph. Mr. Sidney.
Thank you. I live about a half a mile away, down towards Natick Center. The concerns I have, there's a daycare going in near there. It's also a pretty easy walk from the high school. In a convenience store model, I think it opens a lot of risk that the town, in addition to the fact that I agree there's no public need here, but I think it also, because of the location, it's also pretty near Sherburne, and there's a liquor store over there as well. And the opening of risk to having high school students, and you're not going to sell to high school students, but I was a high school student. I found people to buy for me if I could go to one of these convenience store-based liquor stores. So I just don't think it's a good location. I don't think there's a need at that location. If there were again, I think Ms. Coughlin really laid it out. If you had some kind of a specialty model instead of a convenience store model, I think I'd be looking more favorably on this. Thank you.
So just to add a couple things with regards to so with regards to the location not being appropriate, is there another within Natick that you would think is appropriate, or do you believe that all of Natick has met the public need? Just so I know if applying in the future, if I should be looking at a particular location somewhere around town that would open up. And we're also open to, for possibly starting here and then moving down the road if that serves the public need more. But, that's up to you guys, obviously.
So, not speaking on behalf of the board, just speaking personally, I think that the public need is saturated in Natick.
In all of Natick, okay.
For this business model. Mm-hmm. Like Mr. Sidney said, and I said earlier, there are a number of models. So, for example, in any of the 7 licenses that I looked up within a 4-mile radius, the same product mixture is in all of them. Mm-hmm. It's from Martinetti, from Horizon. I can't find a bottle of Spanish Godello. Not at Total Wine, not even with their 68,000 square feet. I can't find a bottle of Zorello, which is Spanish. I can't find a lot of wines that I like to drink because all of the stores carry the same product mix. Mm. So that model to me has met saturation. But if someone were to come and open a Spanish deli, for example, and have jamon and serrano and all kinds of Spanish foods, and have Spanish wine and beer, or Mediterranean, or somebody who specialized in South African, something that I can't find even at Total Wine, that's a different business. Yeah, that's, I'll say on that.
Let me just, unless Kristen, you guys, comments?
You know, as an entrepreneur, as a small business owner, I appreciate competition. I appreciate, just the desire and you all have a proven track record that you're able to create, run open businesses. I am thinking about, however, the smart economic growth that we desire to have in Natick, and I do think that diversity in business is important. I think that's important, and so I agree with what my colleague, Ms. Coughlin, is saying about, what can we offer the residents of Natick that they don't already have? What can we offer, and not just the residents of Natick, but just the Metro West? What can we provide that they don't already have? And so that's, in the space of competition, I think that's important too, that we're offering something that that we are thoughtful about what we add to the market.
Yeah, and that's actually the business, and that's why we've been successful at Daily Mart, or even, so we opened up with regards to your concerns, with regards to the kids and walking distance from the school, we actually had a smoke shop, and the only smoke shop in Natick, which is obviously a 21-plus shop at the Natick Mall, which was filled obviously with kids, and never once did we sell or, to any other minors, and now we're no longer at the mall, we are down Route 9 on Oak Street. But we have experience, with that, and my brother owns a smoke shop in Framingham as well, and we have plenty of experience, with controlled substances and the tight regulations that go around that, because that also has similar restrictions with regards to where you can put it and what you can do. So.
And again, it's mostly a ditto, but I think, I want to be clear. It's not an issue of how you run your business or our perceptions of responsibility. You're admirable business owners, and I think have a strong reputation. I think that is something you should be proud of, and I definitely applaud and respect that. I do think, as Ms. Coughlin indicated, from me as well, it's more of an issue of product mix versus place. I do think, in general terms, Natick is saturated given its square footage, but I do think there are places, and that's part of why we advocated, for example, we have those specialty licenses that the town tried to get for downtown to stimulate some diversity of retail and things like that. So, as you think about, what the future holds for your business models, or as you look at new concepts, I think that specialty or boutique retail model might be the better path for it, at least from speaking again for myself. We can't speak for the board, but this is not in any way, shape, or form a criticism or concern about how you would run it.
I appreciate that. And if Ms. Coughlin has any suggestions with regards to other alcohol package stores in other towns that might be more suited to that location in Natick, then I can go and check that out, and perhaps we can replicate such a model and inventory. Because as you said, right, if everyone's offering the same thing, there's no need for them to come to my store. So I would want to offer something that they can't find anywhere else so that I can stay in business.
I'd be delighted to talk to you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, if there's no further debate, I'd like to make a motion.
No, everything.
It's a public hearing, though, so public comment.
Public comments, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to make a comment? Yep, thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Yogesh Patel, and I'm the owner of Natick Wine and Spirit. As you said that, there's the competitions, great value and everything. So, but I just want to remind that this is not just a regular convenience store. This is a controlled substance that you really have to, it's not like everybody can have these licenses every corner of the streets. So it's not like competitions and how you do it, the business. It's just have to, you have to have, this is controlled. So there are certain licenses available for the town. And I think if you look at it like public needs, what is public need? Public need is how many liquor stores do we need? Does that serve the purpose of the community? And if you look at it, the Total Wine and Wegman itself covers the public needs for the whole Natick and surrounding towns. And after that, we still have like 5 more licenses that covers the Natick, and it covers every part of the Natick area. So is there how you want to do it? Like, is there want to have liquor stores selling the liquors every corner of the street? So I would just recommend that, look for the public needs and public good, and this is what is good for the public. And I think the public, I just said that there are a lot of people, they were not aware of this application, and they were awe about this one. And they were saying, why do we need another liquor store? Like Total Wine, if you look at the square footage of the area, they sell like what, 24,000 plus square feet, which is equal to like 8 liquor stores. So I don't think there is a public need for it. There is no public good for it. So I would oppose that one. I mean, that's my view. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I saw Ms. Vickers had her hand up. Is that still the case? No, I see it's down. Now it's up. Okay. Okay, Ms. Vickers, please go ahead.
To the board, thank you very much.
Ms. Vickers, excuse me, could you identify yourself just for the public?
Yes, so sorry. Brinley Vickers, Natick resident. I appreciate the conversation around this. I also live in the neighborhood, and my hopes would be, I kind of agree about not needing another convenience liquor store or alcohol store. I like the idea of filling the niche with specialty, but I would like to speak to encouraging the filling of that space, as I do live in the neighborhood and I do know what it has done to have the missing laundromat. I think that's an important corner of business that we have, and so I would like to make sure that the applicants don't feel discouraged to search for a better fit for that location, because I personally would really love to see that not be empty and papered up anymore. We do actually shop at the Daily Mart because we pass it many times. My kids like to go there. And we are definitely missing having something in that location. And so I do encourage the participants, the applicants, to find a way to adjust what they're looking for so that we can get something in there, because I would really love to have something in there. Thank you so much.
Yeah. See no one else. I'd just like to sort of echo, everything that my colleagues have gone through, the lack of differentiation, the public need, just I'm not seeing that. And I can sense your entrepreneurial energy. It just sort of exudes out of you all. It's palpable. I wanted to thank Ms. Coughlin for offering to consult on helping you find a unique value proposition. I think that you will succeed at whatever you end up deciding to do. But I'm afraid that I also have to agree that we can't or should not grant this particular application. So, but we have to vote on this, so.
Mr. Chair, may I make a motion?
Yes, please.
Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 138, Section 23, the local licensing authority, this board does not find that there's a public need, and the public need does not meet what is commonly called the Ballerin test. So I move to deny this application as presented.
Second.
Moved by Ms. Coughlin, seconded by Mr. Sidney. I think we also have to do a voice vote on this one. Mr. Sidney?
Yes.
No, I wasn't sure. All right, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, was there? Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Move to close the public hearing.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Sidney, seconded by Ms. Coughlin. All in favor, say, oh, that one has to be,
No.
roll call. No? God,
Executive
eventually I'll
session or
figure this
hybrid.
out.
No, everybody's present. If
Okay.
one of the members was,
Not present, that's what I
Sorry.
thought. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming in and making your case, and good luck to you. Please work with Ms. Coughlin. She'll have great ideas.
Really, thank you for getting the road down on Lakeview Avenue.
Good. Save your cars a little.
If it's any consolation, they stopped the paving right in front of my driveway. The select board gets special treatment.
That's 30 years away. The house goes up now.
No good deed goes unpunished. Thank you.
that was awesome.
Do you want to text, hold on a second, Bruce, do you want to text Paris and see when she's going to be here?
No, I think we can go through the next one for the Stonegate deal, because
Yep.
Stonegate officials are all on Zoom,
Yeah,
it appears.
let's do it.
And then if she's not here, I can certainly talk through it. I just want to give her an opportunity if she can make it back.
Okay. Okay. You want to take a pause? We'll do
Take a brief
about
recess.
5-minute recess. All right, we'll be back in 5 minutes at about 8:55 to 9. Okay, thank you for your patience. We're going to start up with the Stonegate mixed-use redevelopment project and a proposed amendment to the contract or development agreement, and review it as a board and hopefully approve. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Erickson.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'm just trying to pull up the agreement. And my apologies, this came over to us with the busyness of town meeting and all the work that we're putting into also, and from legal counsel's perspective, also supporting town meeting. We unfortunately got to this a little bit late. So this is actually the third amendment to the development agreement with Stonegate, and I'm trying to see if it's on Novus yet.
Yes.
I'm not.
Yeah, John had put it up, I think.
Thought I put it on there. No, I don't see it.
I'm not seeing it up here.
I mean, it was emailed out.
Correct. I just want to make, if the public is trying to find a copy of it on Novus, I wanted to know if they're there. So if you're looking in the public, we're going to try to get on Novus as soon as possible. But in brief, this is the third amendment to the development agreement with Stonegate. I believe you talked the details at the last meeting about the reasons for this, and I believe Stonegate presented their sort of desire and what they're looking for in brief. This memorializes what the discussion was, which is very, very in brief, basically adjusting the types of units. When I say types of units, I mean it's going from rental to for sale, only for a small portion of the overall units. But all of the project and all of the units will still be compliant with a 40B type project. It's just some of them will be for sale, 8 total, of which 2 will be deeded in perpetuity affordable, the percentage requirement, and then the remainder will still be rental. The original development agreement talked about the entire project being rental. This just peels off the 8 duplexes. It's actually 4 duplexes, 8 units in the back for sale units. And we do have representatives from Stonegate online, including Attorney Garahan, if you have any questions. Karis North, our town council, did review this. I reviewed it. The one thing that we ensured in there that was a comment of ours was really just ensuring that these units do have the in perpetuity clause, which is standard, but we want to make sure it's part of the amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions. Again, Ms. Garahan is also online, which is the attorney for Stonegate, if you have any questions for them.
Any questions from the board? Okay, I have a motion. I thought it was pretty straightforward. And
Move approval of the amendment to the development agreement, the third amendment, to be dated May 3rd?
Sure. It's the date of the vote.
I'll
Do I have
second.
a second? Thank you, Mr. Joseph. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, 500.
Thank you. Just for the sake of the public who might be watching, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair, I'll just briefly discuss what next steps are.
Yeah, thank you.
So the town select board will sign this in the coming days. It'll be dated May 3rd. The project still, from the local town of Natick perspective, does need to go in front of the zoning board of appeals as well for an amendment to their comprehensive permit. That process, they've already been in touch with staff in the CED office that can work through that. I've also discussed this briefly with the chair of the ZBA, just to give him a heads up that this might be coming his way. Can't say how they're going to view this. They're an independent entity, but their decision did have a stipulation similar to the development agreement of it being a rental property, so it's going to be a similar type request to the ZBA. I believe their next meeting is that this can be on is likely in early June, I believe. They meet once per month, and whereas we meet every other week.
And my understanding also, just in reading the documents, is there are other approvals like DHCD that would, that Stonegate is pursuing sort of concurrently.
Correct, yes. I was talking strictly about the local process. There's still some amendment work that needs to happen in front of DHCD because this is a LIP supported or a local incentive plan, I believe is the acronym, program for affordable housing, and it's a 40B project through the comprehensive permit process.
Okay, thank you.
Anything to add, Ms. Garahan, on your end?
No. The only thing I would say with DHCD, when we spoke to them, their words were they were agnostic on the subject. You know, they would support whatever Natick wanted. So we still have to go through some paperwork, but they wanted to take direction from you because it's a local impact project.
Local impact. That's awesome. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Erickson. Okay, moving on to anti-discrimination policy. I did not see anything on Novus for that. Is there something that I'm missing, or?
Nothing on Novus.
Let's see it.
Mr. Chair, if I could, it was kind of in the conversation based on the statement that the board had made and ratified. We had this in as a placeholder for a conversation to initiate with the board in terms of the board wanted to create any formal policy related to anything. I know that you had done some research yourself on some surrounding communities and what others had done. So I think this was really a placeholder for the board to have a conversation around that.
Yeah, and I think it leads into probably the next area, which is the discussion on prior year's goals. And one of the things we should probably discuss during that is what our policies are as far as anti-discrimination, because I think Mr. Joseph said this earlier, we had to react where there was no policy in place. And to Jay's credit, Mr. Porapatich's credit, he was very helpful in crafting the message in a short amount of time. And so I do think that we need to develop an anti-discrimination policy that's an overall policy. It's included in that statement, but I don't think we need to come out more forcefully with that as a policy so that we can have that sort of as the baseline for anything, God forbid, that comes up again. Mr. Joseph.
Just as a question, Mr. Chair, I guess I'm having a hard time. I think of an anti-discrimination policy as an HR sort of regulatory kind of statement, sort of making, sort of framing behavior for those that are in the employ of the town. Effectively, we are, as opposed to it being a core value. And we do talk about visions and values of the board.
Yeah.
So to me, the risk of calling it a policy is what's the nature of the policy, how do you enforce the policy, what constitutes a violation of the policy, who's the adjudicating body for the policy, right? So it becomes complicated when you approach it that way, whereas if it's a vision or value statement,
Yeah, I like that a lot.
that might be something that we ask every incoming board to reaffirm or adapt as time goes on, but it might be something we adopt as one of our value statements.
Yeah, and I think you're right, it is changing it or putting it as a core value and vision, and it serves the same purpose, but it is, I'll leave it at that, it just serves the same purpose, but it is less likely to be subject to change, and I think that's important, to be consistent.
Bruce, I have a question.
Yes, Ms. Pope.
Chair.
Sorry.
Question.
I've been called many worse.
Thank you, Chair. My first question is, does the town not have an anti-discrimination policy?
The town does.
The town does.
From an HR perspective.
As Paul
Yes.
said. yeah.
Yes, which I would have been really, really shocked if that was not already on the books. I'm wondering, in going through this process, are we looking for, and to Paul's, to Mr. Joseph's point about, values, do we not have language? Do we not have language that is, could be readily adopted that then can be sent out or applied in a situation like this? Is that something?
Well, yeah. In fairness, when this came up very quickly, we were much in the reactive mode. And what I looked at was how can we get something out that conveys how the general, how the values of the board are reflected. And I felt that I needed to get something out there very quickly. So I contacted Town Hall and I looked at other towns and how they'd reacted to it. And I looked at Wellesley, who had an incident similar to this in last fall. And I looked at how they dealt with it, what their language was. And they made a statement, the same type of statement. They didn't make a policy. But I take Mr. Joseph's point that it should be a core value. We do have a policy, but it's a core value. And I think moving ahead as a board, having that written out as a core value puts a big stake in the ground that says this is who we are as a board, as a town. This is what we're about.
To add to that, are core values not embedded in the policy? This is maybe a Jamie and John question. There is the legislative policy that requires disciplinary action if something were to happen, but are values not embedded in the policy?
So I was actually just looking up the values and visions of the select board from 2019. And actually it was recently, I'm trying to find the most recently adopted one. 2022 is the updated one, yep.
Should be under quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, there are certainly very clear, well, I guess they could be more clear in light of what's coming up for the review of the board in the coming year, to review that. Now, we take, as an administration, those values, and we do interweave that in what we do, obviously. We are actually also concurrently looking at our own HR policies, soup to nuts anyway. We've had it coming out of the, especially during the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, just learned a lot about the needs to, similar to how the board is reviewing and updating your own policies, we're doing the same from the HR perspective. It's just taking, time. We want to make sure we're thoughtful and deliberate, and we haven't put it on pause, but we also want to make sure we get some of the incorporation into those policies of the perspectives of our new equity, inclusion, and outreach coordinator, so that we're doing it from a comprehensive perspective. So can I say that it's definitively already in those? I mean, I'd have to go back and look at our exact policy and then look at the visions and values from the select board. Can I say that we, within the work that we're doing as administration, use those values to then put forward policies moving forward? Absolutely. We're always looking, and when the select board completes their visions and values work and does their goals, we bring that back to department heads to make sure that we're also looking at that from how are we incorporating that into what we do on a daily basis. We're actually soon to embark on an update to how we do that, because we want to make it even more clear and more deliberate from top to bottom and bottom to top. How can we as an administration, how can I be informed by people who work within the organization, my colleagues, to help inform you as a policy-making entity, and vice versa. So as part of one of my next year goals, working with John and the team, I say the two Johns and the team, is how can we revamp our process to make sure that what I'm seeing as needs from the people who work for the community, who lead this community on the day-to-day, can help inform the visions and values that are set by the board, but also how does that vision from the board come back down and help us from the day-to-day perspective. So I know that's one of my goals for the next year, is how can we as an administration continue to fill that, because it's been something that from when I started as TA, one of the first things I worked on with department heads was doing a SWOT analysis for their teams. I asked them to do that just because I want to have a baseline, like where are we today? And to me, a SWOT is just a very basic exercise of taking a look at your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and using that as sort of a baseline. And how are we then setting your goals as a department? But then how does that feed up to me as a town administrator setting my goals to then help this board understand what you need to be doing from a leadership at the top level, and vice versa. I now have been working with an iteration of the select board for a year and a half, and then pulling what I hear at these meetings, what I hear in your statements from policy, back down into what I feed back into the department heads. Long-winded way of saying yes, but I'd like to more formalize that connection.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, I talked a lot there. I didn't mean to go off on that too much of a tangent.
No, I don't think it's a tangent. I think it's very welcome and indicative of I like your description of the two-way conversation, informed by our goals, but also funneling the goals of your department heads towards us to make sure we're all aligned together. Mr. Sidney, you had a question?
Yeah, so I have a question. I assume we're talking about discussion of prior year's goals as well as any discrimination at the same time?
Sure.
Just because they seem related at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm looking at last year's goals. And I think that as we go, and we're not going to talk about what they should be right now, we're just going to take a look at them to see what they look like. I do think that there's work to be done here around things like equity and inclusion, and that could be where the anti-discrimination stuff fits in, for example. So I'm looking forward to having that retreat.
I neglected to announce that, which is, let me do that right now, which is we're going to have an off-cycle meeting on May 10th to talk about our goals and objectives as a select board, as well as to get an update on communications from town administration. that will be on September 10th. September.
May 10th.
I got a calendar like malfunction today. I don't know why. May 10th.
At 6 o'clock?
At 6 o'clock, I believe, yes. It's my wife's birthday, so I should remember that by now.
Well, maybe that you're just pushing away from it because you think you're supposed to be doing something else. Anyway, so I'm looking forward to that, and I'm looking forward to including, you know, and I don't know, I don't know how we're gonna have that conversation next week. But I'm looking forward to going both top-down and bottom-up on the vision and values into the goals and back up to the vision and values.
Yeah.
I think that's what I have to say, without getting into any substance.
Yeah. I think that's, you know, based on going through this one time, the last go-around, we built on the objectives of the prior board, and you know, it is a brainstorming exercise in what are the things on the horizon that we see, what are the things we think we're doing well, what are the things that we believe need improvement. So I definitely encourage everyone to come with ideas on the 10th, and we'll brainstorm and figure it out. Mr. Joseph?
If I may, thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to call to the board's attention in that spreadsheet that has the Select Board and Town Administrator objectives and tasks that is in our packets and available online. The board last year succinctly, and it's actually a year ago tomorrow, that we had a retreat, and we synthesized some of these goals and objectives, and we summarized them in 4 major areas: financial predictability and sustainability of operations, transparency, equity, and community impact. Under the equity area, I think one of the things that was critical to us at the time was we had this, I remember the discussion, it was a sort of a chicken and an egg. Do we appoint a diversity committee before making the hire of the director of equity, inclusion, and outreach, or vice versa, and have that professional sort of voice in helping us do the outreach to engage people and really seat a more representative committee? And we settled on the latter. One of the other action items under that in terms of objectives was actually reviewing our policies. So we've not gotten to that point, in part because we haven't had that person in place. So there is sort of a timing issue associated with that, but it was on our radar screen in the past. Again, it's not a criticism, it's just the nature of how things unfold. You know, we've had a dam and an RFP and some police matters and some other things that have taken precedence, and that's just the nature of government sometimes, but it's not to dismiss it at all. I think to the administration's defense, I think, Ms. Pope, you should at least be aware. I know, to me, this is also part of the governance question. It's like I have immense trust in the administration and doing the right thing. So I think they have a general sense of where we've gone, but as an elected body that volunteers and tries to come together and do this planning, I think in a lot of ways they have to read the tea leaves that we leave sometimes, and I think you've done a great job doing that. But it is that give and take, and I think the public should take comfort in that. Thank you. That this is an ongoing dialogue.
I will, it's a little bit not off topic, if we're talking about the equity and one of the appointments here, one of the goals here was to hire a well, it's noted as DEI, but Director of Equity, Inclusion, and Outreach. We do have confirmation, got it today, of an offer letter being accepted for that position. Great. So
awesome.
We still need to go through some checks, so I don't want to announce a name yet because we're still doing some of what we need to be doing, but that person is slated to start at the end of this month. Hopefully at the next meeting I can be a little bit more formal, or maybe the last meeting in May we can actually have that person at this meeting. So it's really exciting. It took us a while.
Really good news.
But we're there. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to thank the HR director and Ms. Blondette and Mr. Erickson for, first of all, vetting the applications. We were blessed with 2 excellent candidates, and I know in reviewing them, we kind of rated them as 1 and 1A. They were both tremendous candidates, and it was a very difficult choice to choose one over the other, but I think we made the right choice, and that person will be a great leader and a real asset, and I look forward to introducing him formally, or that person, I should say. Okay. Okay, so is there any, do you want to discuss anything further on goals, or do we want to?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I asked that this be put on tonight's agenda just so everybody could get an introduction, because we're going to, I assume, I know I will, want to look at them and come up with ideas for next week.
Absolutely.
So that's, why don't we just go and point out what is there?
Okay.
Because both Ms. Pope and I are brand new to this.
Yeah.
And then we can then go from there to bring our ideas forward next week.
All right. Let me just go through first of all, let me do the values and vision as the basis for the goals. There are 4 areas. Smart growth and economic development. I think we've done a lot of work in that area with the town administrator. They have done, I can read this more for the public than us, to promote an ever more thriving community, to attract people from all walks of life, value the character, vitality, cultural focus, and long-term viability of downtown Natick. The board values the town's strong commercial base, in particular, the growth of life sciences industry, long-term success of the Golden Triangle, and furthering the intent and goals of the Natick 2030 Comprehensive Master Plan. The board recognizes that people come to Natick for its first-class schools, its strong sense of community, and its affordability relative to nearby communities. The board therefore believes that goals should be developed and updated with these interests in mind. So that certainly is a big core value. And I need to give kudos to both town administration and to our colleague, Mr. Joseph, because he has done a lot of work on business development and made a lot of progress in this area in the last year. But it truly is an ongoing basis, our ongoing need, and will continue to be moving forward. Second is quality of life for all. The board believes in the inherent dignity of everyone who lives or spends time in Natick. The board values improving the quality of life for all residents of all ages. The board's vision is to support responsible management and maintenance of capital infrastructure and critical assets such as roadways and sidewalks, major buildings, natural resources, as well as mitigation of traffic safety and accessibility concerns. The board's vision also includes enhancement of town services. The board prioritizes improving the quality of life for all residents in an economical, equitable, and environmentally sustainable manner. I think we're making good progress on that, but that is an ongoing, ongoing opportunity for us to make Natick more efficient, more accessible, improve ourselves economically, generate generate smart economic growth so that we can keep taxes at a reasonable level. And that sort of drives into the next point, which is financial predictability and sustainability. This year's budget, as an example, really sort of realigns where we've been for the past couple of years. We've had to use free cash in other areas, stabilization funds that are now somewhat lowered and depleted, and we're building them back up this year. So the value of financial predictability and sustainability. The board values long-term financial planning driven by strategic modeling, prudent fiscal management, informed decision-making, and a view towards affordability. The board supports open and honest discussion about whether existing services should be increased, reduced, or eliminated, whether new services should be created and how to prioritize given budget constraints. The board values balanced outcomes such as sustainable and fair compensation and active management of major expense drivers while maintaining the ability to retain, attract, and develop a diverse and talented workforce. The board places a high premium on attracting, developing, and maintaining a strong and engaged workforce and believes providing a competitive and fair compensation and benefits is a key factor in this regard. So I think, you know, if we think about that, many of these things are just interrelated. If we do one thing right, it sort of trickles over to the other. So I think we're making, I think, great strides in terms of financial predictability and good informed decision-making. We're planning better into the future, and that's a tribute to town administration. We're in my opinion, making huge strides in that area. So again, you know, we have to keep our eye on that ball and keep moving forward on that. The last one we sort of hinted on earlier, which is community governance and engagement. The board values its role as Natick's policymaking leader, informed by long-term strategic thinking and planning through communication and collaboration with all stakeholders. The board strives to promote transparency and timely, considerate responses to community concerns and ideas. The board values community volunteers, recognizes that the town could not function without them, and therefore wishes to nurture those relationships. The board encourages new voices, diverse perspectives, and broad civic engagement. The board values its dedicated town employees and their commitment to collaboration and support of community volunteers. The board encourages its members, the administration, town employees, and community members to constantly challenge the status quo, pursue operational efficiencies, and find better ways to meet Natick's needs. So I think those four pillars, my recollection when we went through this is these were kind of the values in place when we began the process last year, and if anything, we just sort of refined them slightly and sort of updated them to reflect current circumstances. I feel that, you know, unless somebody on the board really feels that there's an area that we're missing, I firmly believe that these are the four core values that we should really focus on executing towards and working with town administration to make strides forward on that. And we've already seen a lot of progress on many of these goals. I think that was reflected in some of the decisions, for example, on zoning that were before town meeting. We continue to these are, you know, there are no surprises here. I think, though, that minor tweaks might be advisable, but I don't see major surgery needed here. So unless others disagree.
Well, we'll talk about that. I mean, you know, from my perspective, just getting an overview of what these documents are, so that when we read them, we understand, you know, and like I said, particularly myself and Ms. Pope, we know what we're modifying, or what we're suggesting to modify, or what we're, you know, talking about. We just have a better idea of what we know about. That's really what I was looking for from tonight.
I appreciate that, and I do believe that you both of you and Ms. Pope bring a unique perspective that we may not have had last year. You know, and it's always good to have another set of eyes that says, yeah, you're doing this, but what about that? And so, yeah, I encourage brainstorming and thinking outside the box. I use the cliche, I'm sorry.
And I apologize if you think I'm speaking for you. I'm just trying to So that wasn't my intention. It just occurred to me that I might be doing that.
Ms. Pope?
I don't take offense to that, but thank you, Rich. I would like to take I'm going to take time and look at it, and we come back. I know you said they don't need surgery, Bruce, the values, but I do think there are things that we probably should add.
Good.
Especially in light of some of the recent events, there's things that we should add. So thank you, Rich, right, because I haven't done this before, and I do want to look it over to see what we should be doing. And when we get together on the retreat, Bruce, this is to brainstorm or to set new goals?
I would say the ideal is that we brainstorm first, and then we probably won't have a finished document by the end of it. My recollection when we did this the past year, it took us maybe 3 or 4 iterations to agree on the language and agree on whether, I guess, some of the how to benchmark it, how to align it with goals that we set for the town administrator. So I think, largely it's going to be brainstorming.
Okay. Should we set a date at that when we do it? Like, this is knowing that we probably will need multiple iterations. Set of the date for like our deadline when we want this to be done.
I would say at a minimum, it's now May. I would love to see this in place by the end of the fiscal year, if not sooner.
Okay. Thank you.
If that's agreeable.
Personally, I think that's reasonable and achievable.
Yeah. But maybe what we can do is we can provide check-ins at each upcoming meeting and say how are we doing on this, and have it as an ongoing topic. And we can see where we're at various points. So I do welcome your feedback, and I'm happy to hear you voice your opinion, because I think it's a perspective that I may not have or be aware of, and I may look at something and think, okay, we've got this all figured out, probably because I was involved in the first part or the previous draft. But having fresh eyes and fresh perspective is always helpful. So, thank you. Mr. Erickson, did you answer?
Please, yeah, I was just going to provide just very brief, just a brief history of the visions and value statement, and also just a brief, and I'll forward sort of the master document that's on Novus. Novus can only accept PDF, so it's kind of hard to get that master spreadsheet you already did? Okay. I just think it's a little bit easier if you get the master document so you can actually see the table. The visions and value statement was, it might not be on the final version, but it started in 2019 pre-pandemic under a prior town administration with a prior set of members of the board. I don't think actually there's a single member here that was at the time on the board when that was set. So it just shows that it's changed quite a bit since then. I mean, I think the core values have largely stayed similar, but it's changed quite a bit since then. But I just wanted the board to be aware that that's sort of the genesis of that visions value statement was 2019 timeframe with a then new town administration. That coming out of the pandemic, when I was selected as town administrator, we kind of took that and worked with it to what it is today. So it's a relatively speaking new document. But everybody around this table today was not around the table when that was adopted in 2019. So just that's context. Similarly, well, not similarly, actually, very differently, the objectives and tasks that were used as the basis or the starting point for last year's setting of goals and objectives for the select board started as actually an exercise I was doing for myself when I became TA, is just what does my next 6 months and what does my next year look like? That morphed into a document that the select board and town administration used to sort of set goals at that time in 2021, 22 timeframe. And then that morphed into the iteration that became what was last year's select board set of goals that then Chair Paul, Mr. Joseph, took and ran with. So again, that's a working document. It's a living document. It's always changing. Like, one thing that I found about setting goals in my planning background and just my work as town administration is a document like that is a moment in time. It's a snapshot. So we could have a deadline of June 30th. Guess what? Something can happen July 4th, and everything blows up. So I just encourage the dialogue. I always want to have that dialogue, that strong dialogue between town administration and you, and I encourage that even with my department heads and me, so that I know it's happening, so that we can tweak and adjust things as go along. I just want to give that a little bit of context, just so that you know how that it's a living document, in my opinion. It's an ever-evolving document. It's something that I go to every so often. I actually, for my own sake, need to go back to it myself and update my sections of it, because mine being town administration sections of it, because I like that. I like going back to it every 6 months, every year, and I'll be fully honest, I haven't been able to do it in a little while, but and I appreciate, I wanted you to understand the history there and just appreciate where it came to where it's just evolved to what it is today. It's very different, and I'll just say this, just editorializing a little bit. When I was a department head, even just 4 or 5 short years ago, it's very different than what the select board at that time was using as a goal-setting document. So nothing, it's just to say that nothing's set in stone. It can be what this board feels you need to have it to be. Yeah.
My personal favorite part is the ribbon cutting for 1 South Main and the St. Pat's property. But we have accomplished a lot of the things that are on here.
And we are soon having a groundbreaking for St. Pat's, date to be determined, but they're getting close.
Good.
So.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that we've accomplished, and it's good to see that, because some days you don't really feel like it.
Yeah.
I like your goal of 1 South Main.
Ooh, ribbon cutting 1 South. I think we should still do it.
For sure.
Put a big
If we
ribbon.
could, Mr. Chair, I know it's looking at 9:40, but we do have the 21 Overbrook item
Yes.
to go back to.
Actually, before we do, Mr. Chair,
Oh, sorry.
if I may.
Go ahead.
Just to, again, not to belabor it, but to Ms. Pope's concerns about sort of the need to kind of look at it fresh eyes, and I agree this is not a sacred document, but I do, I think one of as I recall, one of the challenges in synthesizing what we all talked about is finding the right language to set the right tone. Communication matters here a lot, and that's, I agree, just even this whole issue of having an anti-discrimination statement or value statement, it can neatly fit under quality of life if you look at it that broadly, but that's not explicit, and it doesn't necessarily convey what's important for us as a body to convey. So you can see the shortcomings even just in that one example that we just had tonight. So I think the good news is, for the community's sake and for our sake, we have now a professional communications person. We now have an oncoming professional diversity person. We have a more diverse board. The voices and the ears around this table are just getting better with each year. So I agree. I think it's an important, but I think to Mr. Erickson's point, I personally like the living document nature of this. It's sitting in a Google Doc that we should be looking at quarterly or semi-annually as a board as well.
And I see it, I ultimately see it that way. I think to have a foundation, I would not expect that even if something like what happened, at the train station happened, that it should blow the dock up. It should be things that hopefully we think proactively about to provide in the document, and that, like with the values, that we wouldn't, rest on being so broad, but that we would drill down a little bit more into certain things. So that's all. But I absolutely agree with this being a living, evolving document for, the boards to come to be able to have foundation to work from.
Yeah. Any other comments?
I think I'm ready to move on.
Yep. Let's go back to 21 Overbrook easement.
Is Karis going to be able to join us?
She's not. She texted me, and unfortunately, she has to take care of a couple other things. So, but I can certainly provide an overview. This can be the start of a conversation, or you can choose to take action tonight. Just a little bit of brief history for those who might not recall.
You want to share the screen so we see what you're
I
saying?
will, yes.
Okay, good.
Let me just give the brief history. So 21 Overbrook is a property. Overbrook Terrace is actually a small dead-end street off of Route 9 near the Wellesley Town line. 21 Overbrook Terrace is a property that actually several years ago transferred hands, and it's transferred hands throughout the years, but several years ago transferred hands, and it came to the then new property owner's attention during that transfer that an outbuilding, it's a garage building built on that property, was actually built on what is effectively accepted town roadway or right-of-way. And I'll show the map in a little bit just to give you the context, but that led to a conversation with the town. It was actually still during the sort of the peak of the pandemic when it came to our attention. It just took a little while for us to get some traction with the property owner. It did eventually get traction as to what needed to happen next. In brief, a couple things could happen at that time. The property owner could choose to remove the building because it was on town property, or go to town meeting and seek an easement to be issued through the select board, or actually authorize the select board to issue an easement because it was considered a transfer of property rights, not just a typical easement, but this is a little bit more unique. So it did go to town meeting to seek that authorization. It was actually a citizen petition to seek that authorization to the select board. That occurred, I believe, a year and a half ago or so. It was a little while ago. And the town meeting approved that authorization to the select board. It's taken us a little while to bring it back just because of various things that have been happening through the years. But now it's in front of the board to execute that easement. There is a question of policy here that I just wanted to raise for the board for your awareness. And I'll bring up the screen now so that you can see what sort of the reasoning for my question around policy. With right-of-way, the town accepts right-of-way with the idea that that can be used all or in part by the town for a future roadway project. Many times the right-of-way, especially for new conventional subdivisions, and I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see the context within the community. Route 9 Worcester Street is right here across from Grove Street. Byron Road is to the west of this, and Overbrook Road is actually a road in Wellesley to the east.
Yeah, now the Shell station is on Overbrook Road, right?
Just over the border in Wellesley.
Yeah.
Is that the one you're talking about? Yep. And the property is this back one here. This, just for everybody's knowledge, our Natick GIS is for reference only. So even though it might show the house structure being within the right-of-way, the survey that was completed for this is really only this outbuilding that you see here. It's like a garage structure. It was built in the 1950s, I want to say, maybe even the 20s. It goes back a ways from when it was built, and we're actually kind of surprised it hasn't been caught earlier by real estate transfers, because it has been transferred a number of times since that time. But just Overbrook Terrace was a laid-out roadway at some point in the past. I don't know the exact date of when it was accepted by the town, but it was accepted by the town. And when the town accepts a roadway, as I was explaining, current conventional subdivisions actually need at least 50 feet of right-of-way. You never actually build that. Usually you build 25-ish feet, depending on what you need for an individual, two 12-foot travel lanes plus, or two 10-foot travel lanes. Maybe it's 20 feet of actual pavement, and then you have sidewalks, but you actually still lay out the full width of the roadway. And then that width gets accepted by the town. In this case, the roadway laid out a dead-end sort of cul-de-sac style, but what was actually constructed was just a straight road. So the cul-de-sac that you see as the accepted right-of-way was actually not constructed, just the road that goes straight ahead. And I can show the aerial photograph. Give me one sec, sorry. Just going to show you the aerial from 2021. Again, the exact dimensions and layout of the road might not be 100% accurate, but you can see from the aerial here that the road itself
Yeah,
is not,
so-
it's just dead ends, just straight. So for all intents and purposes, when the road was built, at some point, somebody probably built the structure. Maybe it was even built originally with the house, but the accepted right-of-way is actually the bulb. So from a policy standpoint, we now have a structure on a town roadway. And it is not uncommon. So for example, in Natick Center, there are times when you might have a structure like with the zero lot set line that then has a portion or a sign overhanging public right-of-way. So we do provide easements occasionally for that. In this case, it's kind of an unconventional way of doing it because it's in a cul-de-sac off of Route 9 in a more traditional subdivision. But in brief, what we're trying to do is formalize through an easement the structure that's on the town right-of-way. Again, from a policy standpoint, I'm not the biggest fan of accepting those types of things because in the future, what if we want to come through here and actually build out the roadway? So let's say it wasn't a dead end and it was just your regular street and somebody built a structure over a right-of-way of a street. My personal approach to that is I don't like that from a policy standpoint, and my recommendation to the board at that point would be, sorry, move the structure. You shouldn't have built the structure on the street. Because what if we have to go and do something in that street in the future? I don't want to be held liable for having to recreate your structure that you property owner chose to build on the street. In this case, it's a little bit unique. It's at a dead end. If you look beyond this point, it's very unlikely that that dead end will continue because there's wetlands through there. There's actually this, you can even see on this aerial, there's what appears to be some type of, delineation that it's probably why the roadway did not extend originally. So I can, one can make the case that this is really a one-off, and I do truly believe this is a one-off. So what we have, given the uniqueness of this situation, given the fact that town meeting has authorized the board to issue this easement, and given the history of the structure is older. It's been here for many, many years, 70 years or so plus. What has been drafted for your consideration tonight is an easement to allow the structure to remain at its current location. It prevents it from being expanded or extended. I also might recommend, but I asked Karis this question, I didn't hear back from her today about whether or not there can be some provision that prevents it from being rebuilt if it were to be removed. I'd like to add, if needed, that type of language into the easement, but that's what's in front of the board for consideration, the actual execution of that easement that you've been authorized to give from town meeting. So again, you can absorb this information and then we can come back at the next meeting. This has been sort of pending for a while, so while I'd like to get it off our plate, it's something that we can certainly wait for a couple weeks if need be.
Yeah, let me, if I may. I'll go to Rich to see what your question is.
Yeah, so actually I was going to make a comment, so if you've got questions.
Oh, no, I'm about to ask if the board is amenable to holding off making a decision tonight pending the addition of what Mr. Erickson just described and validation from Ms. North, Town Council, on the validity of it. The authorization has been done. I agree with the one-offness of this. And, I think if we put it on the May 17th agenda, that will be fine. My recollection when it came before town meeting is the owner of the property really just wanted to clean it up from a legality point of view.
Yeah, there's actually some money being held in escrow between a prior owner and the current owner.
Okay.
Just to get through this process.
Okay.
So I know that that's still pending. We're obviously not party to that, so it's I don't know the terms of that, but that was the case at least last time I spoke with the property owner.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to sign this easement without a no rebuild option, if we can get away with it. If it's not legal, that's a different situation. I know that typically existing properties are grandfathered for the existing footprint, but I'd like to get around that if we can for that particular piece. There are, I just note, and I don't know if they're usable or not, but there are 2 small lots just past the end of the road.
That's what I'm looking at.
This garage thing actually almost encroaches on one of those lots. Whether they're buildable or usable in any way, I wouldn't know. But I wouldn't want to give an easement that causes problems for the next property owner either.
Is that something that we could ask the building inspector to opine on? Or is,
I'm just bringing up the map again.
Yeah, it's there are two lots, 0 Byron Road. And they're owned by the same trust in Wellesley. Just to the north of the building in question that's on town property runs an easement along that lot to the right. Might be a utility easement, or I
It
can't
could be a
tell. from this.
stormwater. We'd have to check the records for that.
Yeah.
It does appear that the actual road, though, and maybe I'll share my screen so we're all looking at the same thing again.
I mean, it looks like the road would extend to those 2 properties if they wanted to do if they were able to do something with them. They may be too small, I can't tell.
But it
Right.
also looks that, like, the road actually doesn't abut those properties.
Which could be potentially a problem also. In any event,
So there would have to likely be some type of acquisition of that right-of-way, which could take care of this easement, should it be something that comes up.
yeah.
We also don't, I'd have to confirm, but those properties could be, have some other condition preventing their buildability.
yeah.
But
Well-
at this point in Natick, if a builder, if a property hasn't, that seems so obvious, hasn't been developed, there might be some reason for that.
Yeah, in any event, I just, my concern is, first of all, if that building falls down, I mean, obviously, if they need to do a repair on it, that's one thing. But if it collapses, I don't want it going back up.
Right.
Because, and there's room on the land for him to put it back a little further. So, that doesn't concern me either in terms of his rights.
Yeah.
So those are really my concerns. I want to make sure we protect not only the other lot owners' rights, but our right to actually turn this into a circle if we want to, for whatever reason. Because if those 2 lots become buildable, this may turn into a circle with a couple of driveways off of it.
Right, or even if in the future we find the need to do some type of turnaround for fire, public safety vehicles.
Yeah. And
This is where my policy hat comes on, and is this really a precedent that could be set? But I just want to make sure that those protections are kept in whatever easement document we have.
yeah, and, if we have to do that, if we have to, like, make a real turnaround, and I want to be able to say to the owner, and I don't know if this is possible, but I'd like to be able to say to the owner, if there's a public safety reason for him to take the building down, that he must take the building down, right? We're going to give him the right to use the property unless.
Right. Or if we need to take the building down for any reason, we're held harmless.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So let's make sure we get those things in and absolutely bring this back. Thank you, and I'm sorry to go on so long about this.
No, that's good points. Can we find out, though, just the status of those lots, whether they have some sort of restriction on it or not?
Yeah, I recall researching that when this originally came about a couple years ago, so I probably have it in my notes, but we can certainly figure that out.
Good. Okay. Very good. Any other comments or thoughts? Okay. our favorite part of the agenda, the consent agenda. Take a deep breath.
Mr. Chairman, we're going to pull the meeting minutes out because there were some edits that came through. Shall we take those up first and then do the rest of the consent agenda?
Sure. Let me just bring up my notes.
I have your email here, so I can read them.
Why don't you read them then? They're pretty minor.
So the notes I received, and I only received them this afternoon.
We have to pull it out of the consent.
Yeah, first
we have to move to pull them out of the consent
okay.
agenda before discussing it. So what I propose is to read the consent agenda. Let's move to pull them out. And then.
All right, so consent agenda. Item A, approve meeting minutes for October 19th, 2022, November 2nd, 2022, November 9th, 2022, November 16th, 2022, November 30th, 2022. B, procurement officer award contracts. Award traffic study engineering services. 2, award Second Amendment to contract for the procurement of engineering services for the Cochituate Rail Trail final phase. C, revote Ari Gottlieb's appointment to the ZBA from a member to an associate member. D, reappoint Shreya Juag, I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry, to the Cultural Council. E, reappoint Amanda Shao to the Commission on Disability. Again, I apologize for the mangling. F, reappoint David Jackowitz to the Zoning Board of Appeals. G, approve one-day entertainment license for Natick Community Organic Farm. H, approve 2 S12 all-alcohol temporary extension of premises applications until April 30th, 2024, conditioned upon site inspection by Deputy Chief Lazan or his designee. And for number 1, Frescafe, number 2, Hampton Inn. I, approve 2023 license renewals for junk dealers, collectors, billiards, and taxi livery limousine. J, approve Natick Center Associates' request to occupy a public way for Natick Nights, Court and Adams Streets for the following dates: June 1st, 15th, 29th, July 13th, 20th, Adams Street only, and 27th. K, approve one-day alcohol license for Natick Center Associates for Natick Nights for the following dates: June 1st, 15th, 29th, and July 13th and 27th. L, approve Nellie Goodman's request to hold a block party on June 11th, 2023, with a rain date of June 11th. I assume that's a different date, 2023, from 2 to 5.
It's, 27th. No?
27th?
No, sorry.
It's actually, if you look at the materials, that was a typo there. It's actually June 10th. And I
June
read
10th
that.
and 11th.
I read that twice. The rain date is actually the day before. I have a feeling they're going to take a look at the weather.
Okay, so the rain date, the party is on June 11th with a rain date of June 10th. M, approve Aaron Stevens' request to host a block party on May 9th from 2 to 8 p.m. And approve Natick Recreation and Park request to hang a banner for the following events: June 26th to July 9th, concerts and family performances on the Common; August 28th through September 10th, Natick Days; October 23rd to 29th, Spooktacular on the Common. O, approve letter to Boston MPO in support of the TIF Amendment 2428 and give consent for the chair to sign on the board's behalf. And last but not least, P, approve letter in support of MPP grant application, and I so move.
Subject to removal of...
No, it's that was the consent agenda. So move the consent, I'm going to move to remove item A.
Yes. Second.
And it was me and who?
Paul. Mr. Joseph.
Can I add, just for the record, are you moving the entirety of item A or just...
No, I'm going to move the entirety of item A because we'll just approve them all.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easier to do it that way.
Agreed. I just want, for the record, I just want to make sure.
Vote on that?
Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
Okay.
Okay. So,
And do we now put the rest of the stuff on the,
yes, now we're in item A.
okay.
Do we need a motion to do that, or we already?
Already
move-
done it.
So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the minutes with the following amendment. For the November 9th minutes, under the Charles River Dam, paragraph 2, it says posted to this evening's agenda. The typo, and a typo does not does realize that, it has 2 T's. And the November 16th should be amended. Under sanctuary policy, Lennox Street should be spelled Lenox. So I move approval of the minutes with those 2 modifications.
Second.
Second.
Ms. Coughlin. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we're done with the consent agenda.
Can I ask Bruce?
No,
just
we
for-
got to move the rest of the consent agenda now.
I thought we already voted that.
I thought you
No.
voted that already. That's what I was going to ask.
I thought we just,
That was the first motion, I thought.
that was
To approve everything
everything
except
but
A.
A, and then we all voted yes.
Okay.
Right. I just
Good.
want to have confirmation of who motioned and who seconded.
Okay.
Mr. Sidney
Okay.
and Mr. Joseph for the original, I'll take out A, or everything but A, and Mr. Sidney and Ms. Coughlin for the approving amended A.
And I assume that was unanimous?
Yes, both.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Town administrator notes. Do we have anything?
Well, I was going to note the hiring of a director of equity, inclusion, and outreach, but I guess that came up previously. No additional notes. I mean, I will say that we are still knee-deep in town meeting, so I just want to applaud all the department heads for all their hard work and continued coming to town meeting to support the work of the town and the business of the town. It's always a sport in Natick. So,
I second that.
thank you.
That was a very charitable phrasing. Okay, select board's concerns. Anything additional?
If I may. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess as in addition to the kudos for all department heads and the work of the administration's team, had the privilege of hosting at my business earlier this week. That we do the Coffee with a Purpose webinar, and I'm trying to encourage people to come out and do those in person. But Pat Conaway, who's the founder of Keep Natick Beautiful, spoke on behalf of some of the work he's been doing, and with the help of an intern, has created a Google site and QR code approach for members of the public to volunteer and actually report where bins are full and where places need cleanup. So he's kind of bringing technology to his volunteer efforts. It's spawned a great follow-up conversation about, and I think it's consistent with some of the emails we've seen, members of the community that are involved in small not-for-profits that are doing great work on behalf of the community, sometimes work in conjunction with town departments, sometimes in parallel, sometimes creating additional work, without, with all good intentions of serving a greater purpose. But I think, that's one thing I've just want to, I guess the concern is that as members of the public that have been doing these voluntary services for many years and contributed, I know the administration has been working very hard to assess what we have for resources, what we need for resources, how our organization is designed to respond to the needs of the community. And sometimes that creates what appears to be an obstacle to progress. But I know they're moving in a good direction, and I encourage patience, and I also encourage the collaboration. I can't speak more highly of the department heads that have been contacted, particularly Mr. Spratt, with DPW, and working to find ways to take, the members of the DPW that actually will pick up garbage that are reported that a bag is being left. It adds to the workload, but I think it saves the town in the long term. And I know the administration is working to figure out the best way to do that, right? Working together with community efforts like that. But, we're in, again, an unprecedented time, and I'm really happy with sort of the ownership and the engagement of the department heads and the willingness to have these conversations. I know it's come up with the Community Senior Center and scheduling events like Open Table and some certain senior events and the like. But the fact that it's come up 3 or 4 times in the last couple of weeks kind of speaks to the fact that I think a lot of people are working hard to do great things in this community, and sometimes there's a frustration that things can't be done quickly. But I think, I applaud the administration and the department heads in terms of working with the community to try to figure out the best outcome for everybody.
Thank you.
Anything
Sorry, you didn't look this way. Go ahead.
No.
Yeah, so I was wondering if we have a schedule yet for when we're supposed to be at Natick Days?
Natick Days?
Or no, at Farmers Market.
All right, good segue, because that was what I was about, which is, I have yet to circulate a schedule. I know we have an open invite, but I will send that, not tonight, but maybe tomorrow.
I think it might.
Is your mic on? Sorry, Bruce.
I'm sorry. Thank you. Sorry, sorry about that. No wonder you couldn't hear me. Okay, so what I'd like to do is circulate sort of a sign-up sheet on that. My only issue is coaching baseball games. Oftentimes is between 10 and 12 on Saturdays. So what we can do is just circulate a document, and if people have weekends 10 to 12 free that they'd like to be there, it doesn't have to be only one of us, but it can't be more than two, because then we have a quorum issue. So I will send something out, and let's just sort of look at the next 6 weeks or so. I don't want to, because then we get into vacations and we're all still planning some things, so when school is out and all those things. Paul?
Is the plan to do this once a month, or are you looking at every Saturday?
I think we were looking at...
Or twice a month.
We hadn't really established that. I thought we said every other week. But
And I will note
could
that,
have a fuzzy recollection of that.
and I'll note that Ms. Sayre is filling already with the police department, the fire department, and other, she's engaging with other department heads to have them show up. So nothing's stopping us from showing up when other people are there, but she's really excited to get us in touch, get the government in touch with the people.
Well, let's ask the question then. There are 5 of us here, right? And, if we have one Saturday per month, each of us, we can cover that reasonably well. So are we agreeable to doing it once a month? Because I don't know, my frustration with select board's hours is we don't meet people. I think it's an effort for them to come in. It's probably not well publicized, but the more casual conversations are the ones that I think we need to encourage. And there's nothing more casual than seeing a sign or walking around the farmer's market. And people know we're on the select board, particularly Paul. But, we can be there and hear a lot more and get a lot of good feedback or bad feedback, and just, hear what's on people's minds and bring it back to our volunteer work here. So I'm very encouraged to do this once a week, honestly.
Why don't we sign up? Why don't we send out the sign up for every 2 weeks and see what people are available for? If it's only once a month, based on availability.
Well, I'd say do it the other way around. Do it once a week and see where the gaps are.
Yeah.
If we have people who say, oh yeah, I can do it these weeks, and again, start with the 6-week
Sure.
window, and then see if we're
And see if
hitting
people
every
talk
week.
to us.
Yeah.
I guess my thinking with it, too, we have other hours that we're putting aside to do office hours. So if we're going to use this 3-hour block of time, do we take away from the other ones that have been proven to be not productive? I guess my preference would be to look at it comprehensively as opposed to just adding another layer of weekly meetings. To your point, I think testing it's not a bad idea, and we're doing it if we do once a week and we rotate through. I agree. It's not too much to ask in the short term, but given the amount of hours we're putting in other meetings and other committees and subcommittees and all of that, it adds up.
No, it definitely does. And we're,
in particular, the young family.
we have
Yeah, microphone.
a lot.
I'd like to see us eliminate the Zoom hours.
Yeah, I think.
No one ever shows up.
Let me ask the question. Select board hours in person. I have yet to have somebody show up. I've been here, I've been to at least 4, not a peep out of people. So
The senior center does, there have been people at the senior center that,
yeah,
but I've never seen anybody Zoom or come here.
yeah. You're a better draw than I am, Ms. Cole.
But I also think it's a PR issue. I think, this is something that communication, we need to be better about getting the word out for people. What I like about Zoom is it's accessible. What I like about the senior center, it puts us in front of a specific population. We don't want to be myopic to think the entire town comes to the farmer's market, because the vast majority of people are running their kids around to events and activities. So it's easy to delude ourselves into thinking the farmer's market is the nexus of all things Natick. We could go to the mall just as easily.
Yeah, I'd like to suggest,
Or a grocery store.
I'd like to suggest,
So what I'm hearing is that we're going to keep the select board hours. I like the idea of eliminating Zoom, however. Do people agree with that idea?
and I've got a suggestion. I think that the farmer's market's an experiment. Let's not change select board office hours until we see how that experiment works. We're talking about 6 weeks.
Right.
In the next 6 or 8 weeks, whenever we do our 6-week period, we come back and evaluate if they've been successful or not, and then we can adjust select board office hours accordingly.
All right, fair enough.
Does that make sense?
I withdraw my Zoom suggestion. I think Paul's right.
Okay,
It's a question of equity and accessibility.
yeah, all right. I'm good with that. It may have sounded opinionated, but I was just sort of throwing out the idea. I agree. I would be happy to hold select board hours or be on the comment or Zooms and have people show up. But my experience has not been positive, so I'm hoping that changes. Maybe I can hand out cards and they say, call me on Zoom.
I have a question. How do we publicize it?
How should we, or how do we?
How do we? How do people even know these things exist?
My understanding is there's a PDF that sits on a website that no one's visiting, and it's just sitting there for public consumption. With due respect to Mr. Paddock, I know he's working on better outbound communication strategy right now, but we don't do a great job, I think, other than having it listed.
No, I mean, I think the current approach might have predated even his coming to the town.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing I'm curious about, and maybe we can even talk about at the retreat next week, is a little bit more creative thinking about, not necessarily outreach. I'd like to see what Jay can help with that, because now that we have a more active presence on social media with cross-posting, we can do more to get the word out, and we can also send it to media outlets if we want to. I'm actually more curious about, we've talked about the CSC and Farmers Market and Zoom, but there's many, many other locations in town that can be used. You can certainly go to opening days for baseball or soccer or other events. You can do the library, one of two, pick your choice. There's so many other locations that I'm curious, and the board starts, and even myself starts thinking about what is the best approach. You can either do, one of a million approaches, but you can do, hey, we're going to do every Tuesday at this location, every Tuesday at Dunk's, come meet us, or you can almost set a schedule for the entirety of the year and each month be at a different location, whether it's the recycle center on Saturdays, the DPW on another day, this place on a Friday, this place, and pick those events prescriptively before the year starts or at this point in the year before with the fiscal year. And hey, we're going to go to each one of these places, and one of those will be the farmer's market, and one of those will be the CSC, or multiple will be that. But that might be another approach.
I like that idea a lot.
Because as you were talking, I was thinking there should be a rotation. There should be a rotation to just be in the community, because each one of these different places has a different audience.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the thought behind it, right? Like, you're going to get certain people who are, you know, faithful to the farmer's market. There's a certain crowd and an audience that goes to the library, and so on and so forth. And then places where nobody has ever tapped in,
Yep.
that just need presence. And so I agree with that, and the need for that, because I do have activities with my daughter every Saturday morning. So, you know,
Yeah.
the need for flexibility, the need for accessibility, it's all important, and the need to understand that, like, not everybody frequents and patrons the same places. I agree with that. I love the idea of a rotation.
Yeah,
And
that's perfect.
And one thing we can do is, again, it can be an iterative, we can set out a calendar, but then as new things come up, add it to the calendar and say, hey, who wants to cover this? Because I know I don't know every event that happens in town, and where I might go is not going to be the same places where all of you will go.
Right.
Yeah, and I think I would suggest that on a go-forward basis, that we set the schedule to go with the election calendar, because it's very hard, they've been set on a calendar year, and then you don't know who's going to attend after the election. You have to redo the thing anyway, you know, you put down select board member number 2.
It is reset. It was just the anomaly of the special election, I think, that threw that off. It is typically done after the regular election.
Oh, no, Joan did it for the calendar year after, so,
Right, but we'll recalibrate it based on availability of people. So it's set because it's prescribed right now. It's going to be the Thursday morning and the Thursday evening. Like, we have a set policy right now, but I think we're moving towards something more flexible. But this
I hope
conversation,
so.
yeah. The other piece
farmer's
too. I mean,
market
not
is
for
the first
nothing.
part of it.
Yeah, but again, I think half of the problem we have, I think, with communication with this town is people don't know where to go. Right? We don't have a select board Facebook page on the homepage itself. If we had a greeting from the board chair saying your select board does this, if you have any questions or concerns, contact me or go to this website. There are things we can do just in engaging using these tools that we haven't been.
Yeah.
So I think this is a great discussion.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Do it. It's part of the goals. How do we engage?
That's
I mean, I mow my lawn every Saturday. If you can move a rake, I'm happy to talk with you about a lot of kinds of things.
Well, you know, it also shows this commitment from the board that we will go to the people, that we don't have this expectation that the only way to get to your government is you have to come to your government, but that government accessible means government go to the people.
Yeah, I was thinking, as one of our goals is outreach. There's no better outreach than being in people's neighborhood, catching them, not catching this poor choice of words, talking to them when they're in their neighborhood doing their own thing, and just doing the activities they want to be doing in that particular time. I think these are excellent ideas, and I'd like to see them as part of our goals. And I love the idea of flexible rotation.
I have one more idea.
Yeah.
Maybe on the order of twice a year, we, as a board, have a meeting that is a town hall where people can just come talk to us. The whole thing would be a public speak.
Well, then
We couldn't respond,
We do that every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
but
Let's.
It's just an
I take your
idea.
point, but let's see how this rotational idea works, because I think that'll work really well, because
Yeah.
We also have the dunking booth at Natick Days, so that's a place we can be
I'm
taunted.
too big for the dunk.
I mean,
Just laying that out there. I'm too big for the.
yeah, I know it's getting to a late hour, so we're probably all getting a little punchy, but in some of the in some of the engagement work that we've done for like Natick 2030 and just engagement when we were dealing with some pretty heavy hitting policy discussions like the adult use cannabis, and we were holding open forums, and we would still only get. We had multiple down at the high school for the cannabis discussion, and we would get 20 people.
Yeah.
we were much more effective, just in the experience that I had working in CED on various planning documents, with meeting people at the train platform and being at Natick Days and being at the farmers markets and talking to and engaging through the PTOs and the youth sports leagues and going to, we put flyers up in all of the apartment condo complexes around town just about the master plan. So the active engagement is going to be a tricky one. It's not easy. It takes work, but it's going to be something that I think can be worked on. Yeah. Not for, again, more discussion tonight. Perhaps it's more retreat or just starting the conversation, I think, is exciting in my opinion, because you got to start small.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we need the achievable start. But I really appreciate all the ideas that have been tossed out. I think it speaks volumes to the willingness and desire to get out there and meet people and figure out how we can do things better. And we can't do that in isolation, much as we'd like to think so. Okay. Thank you. That was
I should write that
Ms.
down, too.
Coughlin and Mr. Sidney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And we are out of here at 10:22. Sorry for so late.